better yet, like I tell the guys, never pass up a high point to scope out your line below you. Does your route give you those high points? Then maybe it's not that great of a route. So terrain, we talked enough about what terrain produces the avalanches that are getting most people. Slope angle, what's the slope angle where most avalanches, big avalanches are coming from?
38.
Yeah, you know, and if you really were to just say a start point to an end point, it'd be like the 32 to 48. And it's because the snow just stacks up and stacks up and stacks up and stacks up so deep before it climaxes.
Is that why there's more avalanches in Canada than are here?
Yeah, it's intercontinental in there, yeah. And then they sell vertical feeds. Vertical feeds is one of those things that is kind of against backcountry protocol. So, you know, I can sell you vertical feed, just bagging them down. I have it done by noon. You'd be like, hey, you want to do extra runs? You know, pull out your credit card again. But honestly, I'm skiing slopes that are short flight times. So I'm not going to like the best stability or the best terrain for durability in your terrain. I'm just bagging you down slopes so I can get your vertical feed done and get you to buy more runs. So I love that we do it this other way, that we do totally backcountry protocol with mechanized guiding. You have safety equipment. You expect you to have it, carry it, play a role. You don't have any booze at the end of the day, so I'm not pressured to take you out if I don't think it's safe. You're going to get all your money back, which is nice. And we're just going to go pick the best run based on ability, stability, weather, and conditions, snow conditions. And that's pretty nice. That's why we believe in this, you know, huge range where we're an assault team. So we have 9 staging areas up to 80 miles on the roadway. And we'll go pick our region based on those factors, stability and conditions and weather and that sort of thing. But slope angle's a big deal, and just because it's steep doesn't mean it's more dangerous. Sometimes steep slopes can be better, and I'm not saying that they're safer because you can fall off a steep slope and get hurt for sure. But what I'm saying is if you're skiing like a 35-degree chute, and all of a sudden you're starting to get all this cracking and collapsing and wolfing, or you kicked out a small pocket, and you get down here and all you got left is this massive apron into this train trap valley, like at Snowbird or at like Silverton. And you're like, right here, you're like, wow, it's 50 plus degrees, and I can see that the whole time during the storm it was sloughing. It looks like it even slid twice during the storm. It's holding less snow, less weight. And so it may be the perfect exit to just side slip it or do a traverse and get the heck out of Dodge. So steep terrain can be it's generally more stable because the snow sloughs off and slides more often during storms and doesn't load up as much. So just think of it as an exit. Sometimes it can be a good exit strategy on steep terrain.
Can we use what did we do, the chapter, the tusk yesterday at the top there? Have you ever seen a slab on that section, or is that something that's
top right,
sloughs?
Top right, big
top
time.
skiers right?
Yeah, like right to the right below the landing zone. Yeah.
So they'll get
so like right where you jump, she'll use the crown right there and pull in. There's that one. You see that one rock, like 200 feet below you?
Yeah.
It pretty much crowns all the way across there. It goes over that.
It's a cliff there.
It's a load. It's convex,
there's
and it's unsupported.
So that's why I go over here. So that's
less wind load.
Sometimes I'll clean that LZ and I'll pry the cornice off and I'll just that whole thing will go. Whoa.
Steep it
But
up.
it's an isolated slab on the right side when it's like that.
But is it steep enough for it to slough there too?
Oh yeah, that's a nice one because it does slough. It starts flowing in the bottom. Alaska's cool because you get dissipation slopes. It's not just because the topography does the dissipation factor. You start getting the sloughs and the slides and the avalanches filling in the bottom too.
Oh wow.
Dissipation slopes are what makes great skiers look so great.
Right.
So if you're coming down to some negative G's at the bottom, that's pretty tough on you.
Right.
If you're coming down to a nice moderate slough, you can just grease it super fast. And they're, wow, that guy's such a great skier. It was pretty much like a skateboard. He didn't really do much except let the mountain do it for him, right? That's smart skiing.
Does that eventually build up strength up the mountain as well?
Yeah. So snow has some structural value stacking on itself from the bottom up. It still can pull out. You can still have avalanches, but it's got to crack, and then it's got to have enough energy and weight to actually pick up and come out of the bottom of the slab. So, but unsupported slopes, weak layer with tension, it's really prone. So slope aspect. Let me touch on anchors first. I love like the San Juans. I love like the Chugach. I love jagged mountains. I like mountains that have tons of anchoring where the snow doesn't adhere into the mountains. Tight trees, places like that. These are places you can check out. Like if you're driving up to Squaw Valley and you're cruising into the parking lot, and you look up and it's July and you're like, wow, look at the erosion process that's happening all summer long in this gully or on this particular little face. Trust me, these places are already going people's lives. And you're already saying to yourself, I'll never ski in that erosion process. Is the snow going to adhere to that? Is snow going to hold up in there? It's a process year round, and there's not much anchoring at all, if any, in those erosion processes. So big grassy slopes that are 200 yards across, you're like, never rip down that in the middle of that after a huge storm. Just say to yourself where you're willing to go and where you're not willing to go. If you're looking for anchoring, you're looking for a good configuration of topography that helps hold snow. Francis has a lot of anchoring. You know, the Francis face has all this anchoring in it. It's all jagged. It's all sharp. Meteorite doesn't. I mean, meteorite slides sometimes. It goes 50-foot crown. I've seen it 3 times in 20 years.
50-foot crown?
Yeah. I did a descent for a film years ago, and the fracture had happened the year before in December, and it was still a 30-foot ice face where the crown was. And it lasted for a couple of years because it took forever to bury it in. Yeah, so there's just nothing to adhere to. It's just sitting on solid ice or solid sheer rock, and it's one of those where you have to really love the stability. And I love to see it go at climax, and I like to see, like, right now it's just been stacking for like 3 years in a row now. It's waiting for a big one. So this wouldn't be the year to get up there and
Not
get
good
a
for
rock
that.
star. Yeah. So slope aspect matters, guys, and it doesn't mean every slope on the north, northeast, northwest is safe. They do slide, but trust me on this. You're south and you're east and late in the spring. You're west, get more sun crusted and go through a broader temperature gradient. And broader temperature gradients mean, you know, really cold nights, really warm days. It's like leaving the ice cream out on the counter and putting it in the freezer, and then you pull it out the next day and you're like, wow, it's like yogurt. It has no consistency. There's no crystals holding together anymore. All the crystals went to rounds. And you're like, wow, this is weird. I think that's how McDonald's figured out how to make that milkshake. But
McFlurry.
But it's the same thing, you know. So south-facing slopes, and this is why the goats love it. They love south and east-facing slopes because there's not much snow because it slides often, and it's super rotten snowpack, so they can just dig down easily to get to food. But it's the same thing. New snow comes in on that rotten snowpack, and you see a lot more avalanches, and you get a lot more sun crust. So you know, it's good to pay attention to that. North-facing slopes do slide, but it's generally better quality, easier to forecast, and they hold snow. It holds together better. It doesn't mean they don't slide. You got to be careful. But man, south and east, and sometimes west in the late spring can be just brutal. And a lot of people don't differentiate between the two. Like Mount Francis is west, northwest on this side, and even like a really bright blue is almost dead north. But then again, I could be standing on this, what I think is north-facing slope, a little bit to my right. What's over here?
West.
I think dead west. I mean, even up here on the cliffs, you start getting a touch of south. So, you know, it's important to think about that. And I'll show you some other slides on what that does. If you're up on a huge slope, this would be like a sage. You'd be up there on this northwest. It's got to be northwest so they can have sunlight. There's only getting skim light. It's not getting direct sunlight really penetrating into the snow. They'll notice it, like, wow, this is so beautiful, the light's so soft and gorgeous. I'm going to be fully lit with my nice little yellow jacket. And then down halfway down, it's this wickedly lit slope on the left, and it's got a west to it. And he'll go, that is going to rip my skis off. That's got a crust on it. Or he'll be like, there's one place that could slide here that's on a slick surface. He goes, that's probably the spot. And he'll spot that. Vegetation does good stuff too. It does provide good anchoring. Why does this look so much like bad news?
Because it's been all dead.
Yeah, it slides often, all the time. Trees barely can survive there. You know, there's a couple lucky ones that have made it. But why are these trees looking pretty sweet here? Why are they so healthy and happy? It's because it doesn't slide much there, if at all. So I have a decision to make right here when I get to the traverse. Do I want to make my move across? Or do I go, you know what, just see this trees, these bladed trees, guys. Just give this thing some respect. It blew all night and snowed all day yesterday. And we're just like, I'm not gonna go out there. I can obviously tell that's an avalanche. That slide early on that I showed you is right here. That's that little pocket we pulled out. It was natural. So vegetation's good. When you're in the trees, you should be able to tell if it slides or if it doesn't slide. And in some trees, like in the Sierras, there's no branches down low. You'll see it smoothed off on the backside, or you'll see scars on the backside of the tree, on the uphill side of the tree. Or in Colorado, there'll just be no branches facing uphill. And right over here, you ski over, you're like, I'm not in avalanche country right now. Just want to strike one day. I think I would ski in the more sparsely trees because they're more open. I can rip a little faster and have more fun. But I'm like going to stay close to the trees over here to pull into in case something happens. I want to strike one day. Keep my eye on the prize. Left turn, glide if something slides. So convex is the big deal. Convex is where it just comes from like 20 degrees, bam, 40 instantly. It's where gravity is playing a huge role. And there's clues, if you're in mountains with trees, all these trees have no branches facing uphill. This is a big deal for us. This is the worst slide we've had in our company in 21 years. It was a big deal because what I did on this given day was I developed confidence. If you go in the mountains with concerns about anything, partners, your own ability, your own physical fitness, the snowpack, the snow condition, the weather coming in, you need to have that same concern all day. A day is not long enough to erase concerns in the mountains. So here's what we did. I go in, I open up the run, I dig a pit here, I dug a pit here, I dug a pit like right here. And these were full shovel pits. I did not find what I was concerned about. I was concerned about surface ore because there was definitely some moisture in the air, and we hadn't been out there for a few days. It snowed like 3 feet. It wasn't that much actually. And so I'm sticking to the apex. I want to stay up here on the apex. I dug my pits. I still didn't commit to the face. I came here, I traversed around here, I got back on it, I got picked up here. And then I flew back up, and I went out a little bit further. And I didn't even dig, I just ripped it. And then I'm done. Aaron comes in, he lands, and he starts skiing this. And it was like our 60th skier that triggered this avalanche. So here we are, like, going apex with concerns to like farming out on the main face. Going, well, my pit's checked out, no one's kicked out anything, we haven't seen any naturals. But you know what, that same concern, if I woke up with a concern, it should have stuck with me all day. We should have just been strike 2 all day. But this was a good mistake to learn because no one got hurt. The guy just had snow on his belly, thank goodness. It was a dissipation slope. Although down here, this is a crevasse, it actually is pretty damn deep right here. When I flew back in to help with the rescue, it was just like, oh my God, I for sure thought something was major. I got out, skied down, the guy's laughing, the guy's all stressed out, but it could have been really bad. But here's what happened was, there was surface ore. And surface ore is those feathers that grow on the surface. And if there's tension and surface ore could just be, there's a patch here, 20 foot by 20 foot patch of surface ore. But if there's tension in snowpack, 4 feet of snow, then we'll go find that other patch of surface ore 100 yards away, hell, a quarter mile away. It's amazing how that stuff will connect the dots. It'll suck the energy that direction to the next weakness. And so this is kind of a good lesson. This was a tiny little pocket that the guy triggered, but it added, 5,000, 10,000 gallons of snow. And then put some weight on that.
Looks like a big crown. Is it a crown?
This is the crown. There's another one up here. It's hard to see because it's so light in here. But there's like a little 20 by 20, maybe a 30 by 20 little pocket that pulled out. And he kicked that out. And he sat down. I mean, I keep telling you guys about, hey, if something happens, this is where you want to go. If he could have learned something from this, he could have just stood up and skied here, right? So always say to yourself, all right, Dean, look ahead, remember to breathe, and hands in front, and remember your safe zone is left. Okay, let's go. Just that little rule before you drop down a slope of where you're going, what you're doing, and kind of set yourself. So just a little pocket that pulled out, they put in a lot of extra weight on the slower slope, stepped it down, and just turned it into a big slide. But just a good lesson that if you got concerns in a given day, they don't erase. There's not enough time in a given day to go get confidence in the mountains.
How far was he taking down that slope?
That was him.
Oh,
right
I
here.
couldn't see him. Oh, okay. So all the way from the top.
I can't remember all the details. He sat down as soon as he felt the rug get swept out. You guys use those airbags and use your equipment, but man, don't go for that thing right away. Grab it and head for the safe zone. All else fails, pull it. I mean, you can't take the ride. So concave, these are the worst of the worst. This is the toilet bowl. It's where the little bug's sitting down there going, "What'd you do to me?" You have nowhere to go, and all the energy becomes such a mass. And this is me flying around for 30 days straight years ago. It was the most incredible skiing ever. It was just 30 days of just the most perfect powder, perfect stability. And I flew around Thompson Peak, and I see this thing. This is like a 12-foot crown. Over here is like 15 even. It's a huge avalanche. Sonny and Mike got married right over here on the ridge. That's where this is. And it was that damn cornice. It was like, what in the world could have triggered an avalanche when it was so stable? I mean, gosh. I don't even think a guy jumping 100-footer onto a big slope could have triggered something at this time. But cornices, I mean, this thing was huge, right? And even like a cornice the size of the back of this room from this beam back literally weighs as much as 2 cars. The snow is so dense and so compressed. If I were to take a chunk of cornice snow, like that little cornice that's on the top of page 1, and cut a piece out of it, of this size little cubicle, I'd have you stand up and throw it to you, and I'll bet you couldn't catch it. That's too heavy to catch it, make you stumble, and it would be so heavy your arms would be like hating it. Just this snow goes rolling across the mountain and gets all warmed up, almost turns to glue. And how the hell does it here back under here and create these lips? That's how cornices build, right? It's just that rotor throwing the snow back up under itself. And how in the world is this snow, and it's like 5 degrees, sticking to it? It's because it's gotten so frictioned up by rolling and tumbling, and it becomes so dense and so big, and it can trigger massive avalanches. So that's what this one was. And this one had a couple things. It's concave, massive cornice above it, and it was unsupported. This is a crevasse. And I call these unsupported. There's a crevasse underneath the snow. It allows these cold temps to come up under the snowpack and rot out the snowpack. So unsupported slopes, and I'll touch on a little bit more as we go, are not just cliffs or road cuts. This is an unsupported slope, right? This thing's hanging 10. There's weak layers of tension. Could I kick out an avalanche on this? Obviously, we did. So here's me. I have a group of 4 or 5. I take people here. I really didn't trust the snow yet. I was just trying to get some assessment and look at it. I had really aggressive skiers that wanted to ski something steep. I'm like, I just got to take it super easy. I'll find them some really mini golf type stuff they can do. So I'm trying my hardest to get them something cool. I get out here, I dig a pit here. I come out here, I do like a hasty probe. I didn't even really get in with my pulse, and I just found surface ore. You can feel a sun crust. I'm like, oh my god. Guys, can you just strap up your skis? I wasn't even comfortable sidestepping back up, so I came here, I jumped over here, got down on this apex, got the heli, and got out of there. This is like 2 days later, I flew by here. Another company had come in and used our tracks. Came in, probably was doing just like what I was doing. He probably was like, oh, I'll take these guys through this little shoot. They want something kind of exciting, but I'm not willing to go do meteorite today. And he goes in here, and his third skier triggers this thing. That's a 4-foot crown. The guy goes over this small cliff, and he didn't get hurt, luckily. But it was just the saying, it's striking away, right? So, new snow, strike 1. Unsupported, strike 2. Dean, we need to be over here on this blue snow, right? That's what I needed to say to myself before I get that day. Luckily, I didn't commit to keep going, right? But that's what can happen. You start looking at all these things that can tell you if you're going to jump into that chute or jump off of Mount Baldy or go into some particular run in the Palisades in Squaw Valley. And unsupported slopes aren't just cliffs. There are a lot of things. So crevasses, and the guys here, you know, I want you guys to hear that too for sure, but bush lines. So if a slope is just consistent for 2,000 feet and it's 15 feet deep all the way down, it has some structural value stacking on itself. Gravity's stacking it a bit. So picture like a bush growing across the whole slope, 1,000 feet below the top of the ridge. And trust me on this, what happens is it's shallow snowpack. When snow's an insulator, know, it won't allow the cold temp to penetrate into it and damage it and break down the crystals and create that metamorphism within the snowpack. But if bushes will allow it to do that. You'll be like, oh, the whole bush line across the slope, 1,000 feet below my 2,000 foot pitch. Okay. I had a moderate shear my last pit, just snowed 3 feet. That's unsupported. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. Or even a reef of rock, and this is a good example. This is literally like a huge fracture, like a 20-foot crown. This is below Green Wave. It's an amazing 5,000-foot run we do in the Pencil Glacier. And it's deceiving, guys. These guys are a good half mile this side of it. The zoom lens just made it look close. This is like 200 feet deep. I mean, it filled in a canyon. I mean, it is massive avalanche. And this wasn't even visible. This unsupported slope wasn't even visible. But sometimes it just looks like you see a deviation in the snow. It looks like maybe like almost like cottage cheese was under the snow and then snow on top. You see some like wavy, gravy, bumpy stuff. You're like, what's causing that? Generally a reef or rock or some bushes buried. And that was the classic dead east-facing slope on a sun crust, lots of new snow on an unsupported slope into a terrain trap. So strike 1.